Joe Biden's polling average is at a record low. He is behind Donald Trump in the polling by an average of 4.3 points. All the polls across RCP show that Donald Trump is ahead by various margins between 1 percentage point and 8 percentage points. So in today's video, we'll be taking a look at what if the election was held today. And really, it's not going to look that good for Joe Biden. His approval rating right now is at about negative 16.4%, with 55.5% of the nation disapproving of him, and less than 2 in 5 voters actually approving him. So right now, this is the electoral map. As you can see, with the safe and likely some of the likely states filled in, Joe Biden at 181 electoral votes to Donald Trump at 113. We are going to see South Carolina and Alaska in the likely Republican column. That is not surprising. We're furthermore going to see Iowa and Ohio both in the likely Republican column. We're going to see that again because of Joe Biden's heavy disapproval rating right now and because of the polling. At this point, Donald Trump is definitely dominating over Joe Biden in both of those states. Both of them voted for Donald Trump here by 8% in 2020, and as of right now, it's actually very much legitimate to believe that Trump will win both of those states by closer to 50 percentage points. Now going to the next state, the state of Texas here, we're also going to see a likely margin for Donald Trump in the state of Texas if the election was held today. That's not very surprising. Trump won the state by more than 5 in 2020. He did pretty well with the Hispanic vote if you just look at the trends. Some of the suburban regions were really wide. Democrats ran up the margins. Democrats also ran up the turnout in these urban areas. But I think many Democrats right now are not going to actually vote for Joe Biden, especially the more moderate ones. They're going to stay at home and just not vote. And that's going to hurt Joe Biden across the nation, especially in the more urban areas in the state of Texas. We're also going to see again the state of Florida voted for Trump by 3 percentage points in 2020, a pretty large margin considering how close the state really is. Generally in national elections, we see that again Trump did very well with the Hispanic vote, especially around Miami-Dade and the counties of Palm Beach and Broward County in 2020. So again, these are areas that are trending towards the Republican Party. We're definitely going to see some further trends in 2020 for especially considering if the election was held today. Again, it's going to look really, really bad right now for Joe Biden. I think he'll lose the state by probably 12 or 13 percentage points if the election was held today. Second congressional district here, a likely Republican district, I also think will go to Donald Trump. Again, just look at how abysmal Democrats polling right now is, and it really just doesn't look good. Perhaps if you were in some of the regions where Biden was ahead, perhaps Biden would win the election, but right now it just does not look good for Joe Biden. Now going to some of the likely states for Joe Biden here, Colorado, New Mexico, Virginia, these are still states that are pretty loyal to him. These are trending blue states, especially Colorado, Virginia. New Mexico may be slightly trending towards the Republican Party, but nonetheless, all three of these states are going to trend towards the Democratic Party in the coming years and also going to vote for Joe Biden. Now, going to some of the other states here, I'm going to give Maine's at-large vote as lead towards Joe Biden. I don't think that's too surprising. Biden was able to win the state by 9 overall in 2020. I don't think the state will ultimately go to, again, Donald Trump, regardless what happens in the polling or really the general election. Now, the final states here are going to be the closer ones. Let's start off with the state of Nevada. Now, Nevada in 2020 barely voted for Joe Biden, and it was more than 2 percentage points. It was closer to 35,000 votes. Nonetheless, it does not really matter at this point. Again, we see that the trends here are not so good for Democrats. Democrats also underperformed in Clark County, and they underperformed in the state overall. They're expected to win by closer to 5. Right now, again, if you look at polling, which generally favors Democrats over the Republican Party, we're going to see that probably Democrats will lose the state of Nevada right now by a lean margin. Now going to the state of Arizona. Arizona is a more interesting one. We're going to see that potentially there's still going to be moderate Republicans that actually stay at home or they actually vote for Joe Biden over Donald Trump. However, again, there's a lot of Democrats unenthusiastic to vote for Joe Biden, and they're not going to vote for Trump, but they're going to stay home. And that's a big problem considering Democrats generally have lower voter registration in the state of Arizona than Republicans. Overall, it just does not look good for the Democratic Party. Therefore, I'm going to again give the state to Donald Trump here by a lead margin. Now, we're going to first start off with the state of Minnesota here. Minnesota, I still think that we're going to see Joe Biden win the state, even though right now the situation not looking that good for him. He won the state by 7. There's a huge college-educated white population in the Minneapolis suburbs, and those are areas and groups of voters that are trending towards Democrats. Again, just about 2 decades ago, that group of voters were about even on the presidential election ballot. Now they're voting for Democrats by 25 points, and that's a very predominant group in Minneapolis, and I still think that Joe Biden's still going to win the state of Minnesota regardless. Now we're going to go to the state of Georgia here. So in the state of Georgia right now, we're going again Joe Biden won the state against Donald Trump here by 0.23%. It was an exceptionally close race, the closest race on the national level in terms of percent and the percentage difference. We see that again, Democrats did very well with the minority vote, and they really got many white college-educated voters in Atlanta to vote for Joe Biden. However, with a Joe Biden and Donald Trump rematch, I just don't think voters will be as enthusiastic as they were in 2020 for Joe Biden. Some of them might actually vote for Donald Trump. I don't think there's going to be a lot of them, but some of them might. And again, the fact that Joe Biden only won the state by 12,000 votes with almost 5 million votes cast, we see that I just don't think that Joe Biden will win the state of Georgia. I think Donald Trump again will carry the state of Georgia. Going to the state of North Carolina here. The state of North Carolina is again not looking too good for Joe Biden. He lost the state by 1.3% against Donald Trump, though it's notable that Trump did not secure the majority in the state. Now, if this election was held in November, perhaps Joe Biden would still make the state close, but as of right now, the state just does not look good for Joe Biden or really any Democrat. Therefore, I'm going to give the state here to Donald Trump by about a lead margin. Now going to the state of Wisconsin. Now the state of Wisconsin here, again, it's a state where Joe Biden barely won. He won by about 0.63% against Donald Trump. But we see that the only reason Biden won really was that he was able to do very well with the wild counties. Those counties being Waukesha, Washington, and Ozaukee County. These counties are traditionally Republican, whom really many of them have college degrees that became really unenthusiastic to vote for Republicans. Some of them even voting for Democrats because they really do not desire Trump to win the White House back in 2020 and instead voted for Joe Biden. However, as of right now, just look at the polling, just look at pretty much all the metrics available. It does not look good for Joe Biden over Donald Trump here, and I think that combined with the Republican strength overall in the rural regions, that we're gonna see Donald Trump here win the state against Joe Biden. Now going to the state of Michigan here. Michigan voted for Biden by 3, but again, the state actually voted to the right of the national average. The nation voted for Joe Biden by 4.5%. Biden won the state by just under 3. If Joe Biden indeed loses the popular vote by 4% or anything close to that, if he loses the popular vote, there's no shot that Democrats actually win the state overall. Let alone if Trump is already at 47.3% in the polling and there's still 10% of the voters that are undecided. Right now, it just seems like that Donald Trump will win the state of Michigan as well. Now for the state of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is Joe Biden's technical home state. However, it still does not look good for, again, Joe Biden. We see that Joe Biden secured about 50% of the vote exactly in the state and carried its 20 electoral votes. However, this strength was largely due to the fact that he was able to do very well with the exurban/suburban counties around Philadelphia and also do well in the Pittsburgh region and do well in some of the more conservative-leaning counties, but not really that conservative in general. Overall speaking, these are areas that, again, they might reverse back to the Republican Party because they might not be so satisfied with how Biden performed in White House, especially with his approval rating. the fact that back in 2020 he was actually approved of by the nation. You can see when he was inaugurated, he was approved of by about 20%. Now he's disapproved of by a substantial margin. We see that, again, polling not so good for Joe Biden. Overall, the totality of the polling suggests that really Donald Trump is also favored right now in the state of Pennsylvania, probably by closer to a lean margin. Now, I think that Nebraska's second district, this is an interesting one. Joe Biden won the district by 7, but there's a lot of voters, I'm sure, that are again feel that Biden has not fulfilled his promises potentially, and therefore I still think the district will go to Donald Trump. Now, finally, with the state of New Hampshire. Now, New Hampshire is interesting because this is a purple state. This is a state that's trending toward the Democrats. And this is also a state with a lot of white college-educated voters, the group that has been trending towards the Democratic Party by a huge margin since about 2016. These are voters that voted for McCain in 2008, voted for Romney in 2012, and voted for Hillary Clinton potentially in 2016, and definitely voted for Joe Biden pretty much in 2020. And that's a problem because you see Nikki Haley, generally speaking, in some of the primaries, she's securing about, 25%. If we see in the state of Iowa, if Ron DeSantis was out of the race, she would be securing about 25% to Trump at about 70%. But in the state of New Hampshire, we see that Nikki Haley actually got 45% of the primary vote. Now that's largely because of independents actually voting for her. But there's also another problem. We see that Trump actually won. I think he won the independent vote in the state of Iowa, but he lost the independent vote in the state of New Hampshire by 20-something percentage points, and that's significant. Many independents are not happy with Donald Trump in the state of New Hampshire, and this is pretty much an outlier compared to the rest of the nation. Regardless, Biden will still probably win the state of New Hampshire by about 2 to 3 percentage points. Anyways, thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.